All right, today we're going to go on a journey, but not to some faraway place. We're going inward. And look, this isn't just another self-help talk. Think of it more like a map for a homecoming, a way to find a part of yourself that might have gotten lost along the way, and maybe rewrite your own story from the inside out. So, let's dive in. Let me ask you something. When you're totally alone and everything's quiet, do you ever hear it? A soft, kind of sad voice, deep inside? A voice that nobody else can hear? Well, that's the voice we're going to talk about, because that's the child you once were, and they're just waiting to be heard. Okay, so first things first. What even is this inner child? Let's get into what that actually means, from a psychological standpoint. And I want to be super clear here. This isn't just some nice poetic idea. The inner child is a real psychological concept. It's the piece of you that, well, never really grew up. It's the part of your subconscious that's holding on to all the feelings, the memories, the beliefs from when you were a kid. It's where all your wonder and creativity comes from. But it's also where your deepest wounds are kept. So you can kind of think of the inner child as having two sides, like two sides of a coin. On one side, you've got all the good stuff, your joy, your creativity, that spontaneous, playful energy. But then you flip it over, and that's where the pain is. The unhealed wounds, the deep-seated fears, all those needs that just didn't get met. I mean, think about how often we shut this part of ourselves down as grown-ups. Picture this. A 40-year-old executive, totally successful, looks out the window and sees it's raining. And for just a second, they get this urge to fold a paper boat and float it in a puddle, just for fun. But then that other voice pops up, right? Don't be ridiculous. That's so childish. And just like that, that little spark of pure, simple joy gets snuffed out. So, how does that happen? How does this playful, curious part of us get so wounded in the first place? Well, that brings us to this internal battle that so many of us are fighting every single day, the mind's inner war. And here's something that's really, really important to get. These deep wounds, they don't always come from some huge, obvious trauma. A lot of the time, they're formed in these small, everyday moments that just happen over and over again. Your feelings get dismissed. You don't feel seen. You're always pushed to be perfect. Think about a little girl, so excited, running up to her mom to show her a painting she just made. But her mom is tired, she's stressed, and she just brushes her off. For the mom, it was nothing. But for that little girl, a wound just formed, and a belief just took hold. My creativity doesn't matter. I don't matter. So to try and protect this wounded child, our mind does something kind of strange. It builds a defense mechanism. Psychologists call it the critical parent. And this is that nasty, judgmental voice inside your head. You know the one. It's usually just an echo of our own parents or other critical adults from our childhood. And its job, believe it or not, is to stop you from getting hurt again by constantly criticizing you before anyone else can. And what you get is this constant war inside your own head. On one side, you have the wounded child who's scared and alone and totally believes I'm not good enough. And on the other side, you have the critical parent just hammering away with insults. You're so lazy, you're just going to fail again. It's always pushing for this level of perfection that's completely impossible. And that voice, it sounds something like this, doesn't it? The second you mess up, the wounded child feels that awful sting of shame, and bam, the critical parent is right there saying, see, I told you, you can't do anything right. It's just this horrible, vicious cycle that feeds on itself. So what's the big deal? Well, this isn't just some abstract theory. This inner war is the root cause of so many real-world adult problems. Procrastination? That's just your inner child being terrified of failing. People-pleasing? That's your inner child doing whatever it can to not get rejected. See, this stuff has a huge impact on our lives. But here's the good news. You are not doomed to fight this war forever. There is a way out. The solution is to bring in a third voice, a much more powerful one. It's time to learn how to become your own parent. Okay, so let's introduce the hero of this story, the nurturing parent. This is your wise, calm, loving adult self. This is the voice of compassion and unconditional love. It's the part of you that can walk right onto that battlefield and completely change the game. So what does that actually look like in practice? The whole process is called reparenting. So picture it. You make a mistake, your inner child feels that pain, the critical parent immediately starts attacking. You're a failure. But then, the nurturing parent steps in. It tells the critic to back off. And it turns to the child with kindness. It says, hey, it's okay. This is just a mistake. It isn't who you are. What can we learn from this? And this, right here, is the most powerful part of all. You don't need to wait around for some savior to come fix you. You don't. You have the power inside you, right now, to become your own best parent, the parent you always needed. Okay, great. But how do we actually do this? How do we get these different parts of ourselves to talk to each other? Well, let's look at a really unique and honestly, surprisingly powerful way to get started. Now, there are lots of ways to heal. Therapy, meditation, journaling, you name it. But there's one technique that's so direct, so simple, it's almost weird. And that is writing with your non-dominant hand. I know, it sounds a little out there, but there's actually some really cool neuroscience that explains why this works so incredibly well. Basically, it boils down to how our brains are wired. Your dominant hand, the one you write with all the time, is connected to your logical, analytical left brain. That's where the critical parent lives. But your non-dominant hand, that's linked to your creative, emotional right brain. That's the inner child's turf. So when you switch hands, you're basically bypassing that inner critic and opening up a direct line to your inner child. So here's how you can try this, like right now. Grab a piece of paper and a couple of different colored pens. First, using your dominant hand, that's your nurturing parent, write down a kind question. Something like, "Hey, little one, how are you really feeling?" Then switch the pen to your non-dominant hand and just let the answer flow. Don't worry if the handwriting is a mess or if the words sound simple. Just let it come out. You're giving a voice to a part of you that might have been silent for a very, very long time. And as you keep doing this, something amazing starts to happen. You're not just patching up old wounds. You're actually changing the entire narrative of your life. You are, quite literally, rewriting your own story. This whole process creates this massive shift in how you see everything. You start moving away from a victim mindset where you feel powerless and it's always someone else's fault, and you move into the hero mindset. The hero, they take responsibility. They reclaim their own power. Their question isn't, why did this happen to me? It's, okay, that happened. What am I going to do? And look, the goal here isn't to pretend your past didn't happen. It's to transform it. That pain from your past, the stuff that used to be a source of shame, that can be forged into your greatest strengths. Things like empathy, resilience, a deep understanding of what other people are going through. Your scars actually become your superpowers. I really want you to let this next part sink in. You can't change what happened in the past, but you can absolutely, 100% change the effect it has on you today. You can, in a way, give your childhood a new birth, one where you finally get all the love and acceptance you ever needed because you're giving it to yourself. So let's finish with a question. Right now, in this moment, what is one kind thing you can say to your inner child? Just one. Because that journey back home to yourself, it starts with that one single loving thought.